Close your eyes and imagine a stereotypical California surfer boy. Imagine what you think they look like, all the traits. Now open your eyes. So there's a 75% chance you just pictured an exact replica of the pro skater Curren Caples. All model and skater boy jokes aside, Curren is an absolute ripper that has been pro, it seems like since he was a little kid. And he just keeps getting better and better, so Vans finally gave him his props and gave him a pro shoe, one of the highest honors of all of skateboarding. They're touting it as vulcanized perfection. He dropped a really good pro part, but it seems like after the launch, the shoe has just kind of disappeared into the mist and no one really cares. So no one really knows what's different about the shoe, and I feel like it might end up like a lot of former Vans Pro shoes in the discount bin and discontinued. So we're gonna find out what are all the new technologies in the vulcanized perfection shoe. We're gonna run it through our test featuring our brand new Anvil Martindale Abrasion tester, and how's Curren's pro model actually skate, and the two big problems with Vans. So kind of problem number one is most people know Vans was founded in 1966. They have a long history tied to skateboarding. The waffle sole, the checkerboard slip-ons, the DIY culture, it's all iconic, but beneath that carefully preserved skate image, there's a side of Vans a lot of skaters don't really know. So after becoming a staple of skateboarding through the 70s and early 80s, Vans actually filed for bankruptcy in 1984. Not because skaters stopped caring, but because the company overexpanded, chasing growth. But in 1988, they crawled out of bankruptcy, and just a few years later, in 1991, Vans went public, launching on NASDAQ. So think about that. It's like this raw underground skate brand was now a publicly traded company answering to investors. So that move alone, it kind of shifts your priorities, even if it doesn't look like it from the outside. So around this time, they started the Warped Tour and kind of refocused on action sports and kept selling the image of like anti-corporate rebellion, while very much becoming a corporation. I don't think Vans is evil, but I think the people that come along with going public and like answering to shareholders and investors, and they only care about short-term profits, kind of throw a wrench into your like skater-owned vibe. Then came in 2004 when Vans was bought outright by VF Corporation for $300+ million in cash. So if you don't know who VF Corp is, they're the portfolio giants behind like the North Face, Timberland, Dickies, JanSport, and until recently Supreme. But like with a lot of conglomerate-owned brands, quality takes a hit when you blow up that big, and profit becomes the bottom line. Decisions started making more sense to the boardroom than to a skate shop. And now VF Corporation has kind of been under some financial pressure in selling off assets. In 2024, they actually sold off Supreme, which they only bought a few years ago. So Vans might be getting into some uncertain territory. I know the team at Vans is super solid and great and supports the community. It's just when any company has outside investors and like top-down pressure, you kind of have to answer to the bottom line, which leads to a lot of changes in like manufacturing processes and materials and other like little tiny corners cuts, which is kind of feast or famine depending on how well the company happens to be doing at the end of the fiscal quarters. So it's like, if you're doing good, sick, but it's like, oh, you took a hit, so we gotta make up that money somewhere. So that brings us to this shoe, the Curren Caples Pro. I actually think Curren is an amazing skater, but this shoe was almost doomed from the start. It was launched right around the same time as the New Balance 933, and New Balance absolutely dominated the moment. They put like the designer front and center, they broke down the shoe, the why behind it, the how. It was kind of a masterclass in transparent design, something really I don't think anyone's seen in the skate shoe world. So meanwhile, for the Curren, Vans dropped a desert party. It was like a cool party, sure, but as my friend Austin put it, I wasn't at that party, so why should I care? And that kind of sums it up. The marketing didn't really resonate, the shoe didn't feel personal, and honestly, from what I've heard, shoe companies don't always let skaters design the shoe they want. So more than one pro's been told, here's your shoe, even if you hate it, take it or leave it. It's super rare for a skater to push back, kind of like Janoski did with Nike, and demand a full redesign. Most just settle, and the result, it's kind of a shoe that doesn't last. Like, just look at the Burl Pro for Elijah Burl. It kind of came and went, and barely anyone even noticed. Even in Curren's press for this shoes, he constantly talks about how he mostly skates Vans checkerboard slip-ons. And in his own pro part for this shoe, he's wearing slip-ons for like half the part. So that doesn't exactly scream confidence in your own model. Side note, that part ruled. I'll link it below because it's awesome. Curren just has such good style, so it's like, what did Vans actually give him?
These are micro adjust belts, handmade right here in the shop by us. Premium leather, solid brass hardware, and the rounded buckle so it doesn't dig in your gut all day. But what is micro adjust? Well, the one problem everyone always has with their belts is one holds too tight, one's too loose. These little adjustments right here allow you to adjust your belt by 1/2 inch increments so it fits you exactly how you want for the lifetime of the belt. So check them out below.
The brand is Vans, the style is the Skate Curren Caples Pro, which Vans has a naming system is a nightmare. So since they have skate and non-skate versions of their shoes, the skate shoes end up having insane names that have skate in them, which leads to names like the Vans Skate High Shoe, which is nonsense. So they weigh just under a pound. They retail for $80 and they're made in Vietnam. So there's a lot of fully capitalized words in this positioning. So everything that's fully capitalized, I'm gonna read it like I am reading it in my head. So straightforward, everything Curren wants and needs in a skate shoe. In his never-ending search for vulcanized perfection, Curren Caples brings his first signature skate shoe to the mix with a new custom outsole pattern. The bottom is optimized for grip and board feel with 6-stick rubber and a pop cush insole for lasting impact protection. So the padded collar and lace closure ensure a perfect and comfortable fit for longer sessions. So right off the bat, you can see how hard they're pushing durability. So we're gonna put this right to the test. You can buy these shoes from our links. We actually got a pair sent to us by David, the owner of Blue Tile Skate Shop. Go check out his shop below. Go buy one of these cool shirts that he sent. I'm bummed because I immediately got grease stain from a Martindale abrasion tester on it. But he's like the nicest dude ever. He has his own YouTube channel, so go subscribe to him, go check out his shop. He's like the nicest guy of all time, so show him some love. So for the tests, David actually ran some abrasion tests for the new Nija shoe where he put the shoes on a belt sander to see how long they last, and he was super impressed by how the Curren held up in comparison to the others. So we're gonna compare and contrast our results here to see how that holds up. So let's get right to it and test the abrasion. Here are the stats of the contenders. We have the New Balance 306. Since David used that shoe in his test, I figured I would use it too. It's one of my favorite skate shoes ever. It's suede, it's 1.8 millimeters thick. We have the New Balance 933, which is pig suede, which is supposedly much more abrasion resistant at thinner thicknesses than cow suede since its fiber structure is much tighter and interwoven than cow's. It's 1.5 millimeters thick. We have the Nike SB Dunk grain leather. It's heavily coated PU leather you see on most skate shoes. It has particularly loose fibers in this shoe. It's 1.5 millimeters thick. And then we have the Vans Curren, which is suede, 1.5 millimeters thick. So for the official abrasion test, how does it work? So on the bottom of the test, you have your abrasive material. In this case, I used Mob Grip, which is the grippiest grip and most abrasive grip, on top of a standard non-woven felt disc. And on the top, you have your test sample, which is the shoes. It's screwed in on top of a standardized blue PU foam disc. You then put the sample in the top of the machine and you set how many strokes you want it to perform. So we're gonna go by 500 stroke increments, and I'll stop and measure thicknesses every 500 strokes to see how much material is left. The machine then moves in a figure 8 motion, rotating the sample. It's kind of like a spinning teacup ride. It's a pretty standard test when choosing materials, but is not often done after the shoe's been finished, and I don't think it's ever been done against actual grip tape to simulate real-world wear and tear. So this might be the most official skate shoe test, at least on YouTube. I have no idea. Comment if you've seen other people do this. So let's start the tests. So what's really surprising is the way that these different leathers disintegrate. Like the Nike Dunk is really pilling up and like had larger chunks being worn off. Both New Balances were getting grounded to like a finer powder, and Vans was pilling up and chunking off, not quite as much as the Dunk, but definitely not as like fine grain powder. So I'm presuming that the finer the material abrades to, the longer it will last, because the smaller the particles, the less will come off with each kickflip and ollie. So here's our final results. So at the bottom of the bracket, number 4 is the Nike SB Dunk. The PU coated leather failed at 496 strokes. This is why I prefer suede on my skate shoes, since all that hairy fiber structure is naturally more abrasion resistant. This was a particularly bad leather that wasn't on the high abrasion spots, but does show how weak some of these cheap leathers are. So at number 3, we have the Vans Curren Caples. It failed at 1,233 strokes. So it lost about a 1/4 millimeter of material every 500 strokes. Luckily, Vans has added a big old chunk of Duracap, which is that extra rubber layer. You can see on my own worn pair of shoes that I made it to the Duracap. It took about 3 weeks of skating to actually get to this Duracap. In my experience, like extra rubber layers won't last nearly as long as leather. So once you see that Duracap, I like to patch it up with like some shoe goo or something like that. At number 2, the New Balance 933, which failed at 2,336 strokes. So the pig suede almost doubled the Vans suede. Everything I've seen, and so far all the tests that we have personally run, points to pig suede being the abrasion king. If you see pig suede on skate shoes, buy that one. Number 1, surprisingly, it surprised me, the New Balance 306. It was thicker than the rest, but it failed at 2,652 strokes. So just about as much as the thinner pig suede. So you can see the Vans might not be the most abrasion resistant leather material, but the upper isn't everything that matters. So let's see how the outsole performed compared to other shoes. There's something about the way that this outsole is made that I haven't seen before, and you're gonna have to wait until it's cut in half to like see how it really works. But this is just a vulcanized shoe. Vulcanization is when they take, the bottom of the shoe is a separate piece, they glue it on, and then they wrap pieces of uncured rubber, which is called the foxing tape around it. They throw it into a big oven and it all cures to become one solid piece of outsole. And I have had Volk shoes that only last a few days. I've had Volk shoes that last a few months. So it's a really important part of a skate shoe. And weirdly enough, this looks like it has 3 layers of foxing. So there's like this inner, I'm calling it the stripy layer because of the texture on it. And it has the regular foxing layer right here. So Vans says this has a deeper knurl, which is the texture on it, than other shoes. It'll give you better grip because there's more texture on the rubber. It's kind of like Velcro. It's like the more grip, the more it's gonna stick. My biggest worry started the second time I skated when there was big chunks of the rubber falling off the toe, which hasn't happened to me ever. So normally the shoes just kind of wear away and like sand down to nothing. I've never had big chunks fall off, but after 3 weeks of skating, the problem didn't persist. The day before I cut this in half, I actually finally put a hole in the foxing. So without the extra toe bumper, Volk shoes go through way too fast. So bad examples of not long lasting Volk shoes are like the Cariuma, the Last Resort VM 006 Mock Toe, the Ours Is Yours, and really good examples that do have a toe bumper like the Nike Janoski, the New Balance 306, and like the Van Half Cab. I'd say 3 weeks is about average to put a hole in foxing for Volk shoes. But let's cut this in half and I will show you the weird things I haven't seen in a Volk before and what the other problems with Vans are.
This is literally half a cow's worth of leather. I want to show you how flawed hides are just naturally because they used to be a live animal. So right here is just a little thin part in the hide. You can see some barbed wire scars on the belly, some big bug bites up here at the neck, but because it's scratch and dent, we can cut through all this. Little teeny cosmetic flaws, but still structurally sound, 30% off because they're scratch and dent. Check it out below.
Do I cut this? All right, so we got it cut in half. Make sure to go like and subscribe. Go check out David Bluetile's channel. Go buy one of his cool shirts. I actually really like this shirt. I'm bummed I stained it so fast. So, like, comment, subscribe. That's the best way to support us when we're spending like $1,000 a week on cutting shoes in half. So, let's see what's inside. So there are 2 weird things inside here that you don't see very often. So beneath the lasting board, there's like this extra kind of rubber layer for shock absorption. But on the back, there's another like harder plastic, kind of like a shank on the heel. So my former Vans designer friend told me that this is to add rigidity in the heel and it will also slightly affect the board feel. My friend who I had skating a pair of these said he felt much less on their heel than the toe than usual. But the thing I've never seen before in any Volk is that this inner layer of foxing, this like stripy layer that I called it, actually wraps under the toe and gives you like a whole extra layer the whole way down. It's a nice added touch for durability. So what you have for durability is you have 3 layers of rubber, you got 1 layer of leather, 1 layer of Duracap that actually goes all the way down as well. It's a pretty big chunk of Duracap, so props to Vans for that. All of that before you go through the actual shoe. So for the final analysis of the shoe breaks in a lot. Like once you start wearing it in, it really does feel like a slip-on. So if you like a little more structured slip-on, this might be the best shoe for you. I obviously like a stiffer shoe, but I felt pretty good skating in this. It won't hold its shape like the Warsaws or like the 306s, but it felt pretty good. Like it's a pretty solid Volk. It really blends the line between a slip-on and like a Vans era. So the last big problem that Vans has is that Vans models are too popular. So people only want the classic models that they know, like an old school or the slip-on or the skate high, and it puts Vans in a really hard spot because they want to give their riders the props that they deserve. But when they come out, people just want to keep buying the same old things that Vans has been doing for years. So it's a good problem to have, but when you have to answer to the bottom line, you see the pro models aren't performing as well as the classics. Some high up dudes at VF can just be like, this isn't performing, why are we still making it? Let's just make these 4 shoes. And you're like, no, I want to get like, these are pros, they've earned it, I want to give them their props, I want to have them sell the shoes. But when the bottom dollar is king, then your pro models just get left in the dust. Like I always go back to the Burrow Pro because I don't think they make it anymore. It was only around for like a couple years because it probably just didn't perform that well. Or like the Aves that people are kind of mixed on. I'd love to actually skate a pair of the Ave 2.0s because they look crazy. But the pro side of being that big and having funding is that one bad selling shoe won't kill your entire company. Like the small guys like Ours Is Yours, iPath, Warsaw, Last Resort, like they don't have that cushion. So every shoe needs to be pretty good or else they're gonna go out of business. So my recommendation and chart of confidence skating. So if you like to skate the Aries or slip-ons, give the Currens a try. Like, I enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to. It's not as much as some other Volks I've skated. On the chart of confidence, I'd probably give it like a 6.5. It's like a solid average Volk skate shoe for me. I do like all the things they've added for the extra durability. Let me know what other shoes you want to see and like any other pro models that aren't getting the love they deserve. Maybe we can shine a spotlight on them. Go sign up for the skate testing pool below, get your opinions, your clips in the video. It's a really good, you know, community resource for skate shoes. That's it. Tell me what else you want to see, what other tests you want to see added. Like, we got the abrasion tester. We're gonna get some other cool big tests that are coming down the line. So let me know what else you would like to see repeated in like a more scientific way. That's it for me. Peace.